Please stop crying. Listen to me. You still have the show. It's not like it doesn't exist anymore. I know it's awful. It's diabolical. But it could be worse. Right?
There are movies, media, that are just way too sinful to look at. And then there's, oh my god, The Last Airbender.
When it was announced that they were making a live-action movie based on the series, I was ecstatic. Unfortunately, I don't think a movie has ever let me down more than The Last Airbender did.
Everybody who watches the movie is like, oh, it's not accurate. The lore and the canon isn't right. No, I want to see if this movie is actually bad. And so far, as a film, it's breaking every rule.
Now, I usually try to keep it pretty positive on this channel, so consider this an exception to the rule. An exception you better have damn well enjoyed, because this took a lot of work.
Hi, I'm a possum and I find garbage. Today's garbage is The Last Airbender.
Even after making several Avatar videos and being asked to over and over again, I just didn't see the points. Like, everyone knows this movie is bad.
Unbreakable, good. Signs, incredible. The Village, good. Lady in the Water, I like it. It's happening. You know what? I like it. Last Airbender, here we go.
You guys, I don't think that this movie is going to be very good.
Welcome to the No Pressure Program.
The Last Airbender movie was a movie produced by M. Night Shyamalan that came out 2 years after the Avatar The Last Airbender show ended. That's basically all I know on its background. Now, believe it or not, this movie was actually not ruined at all by, studio interference or, tampering. You know how they re-edited Suicide Squad so that all the good sex scenes that explain the plot were cut out? They did that with this movie, and it ended up even worse somehow. Let me rephrase that. This movie is worse than Suicide Squad, and it doesn't have any of the studio interference. They made a movie this bad on purpose. Now, I obviously don't need to tell you that people didn't like this. This movie's 11 years old, and people have been grilling it for all 11 of these years. But I've never given my take on it, because I haven't been around for, 10 years. I've been around for like 1. So, let's just get into it now, because I'm sick of putting it off. Alright, do you know what we're watching today?
The Last Airbender.
The Airbender? Last Airbender? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Any good review of a film should start by describing what the plot of the movie is. Well, this movie has no plot. It is just a bunch of loose episodes Frankenstein together to try and make something cohesive. I have watched that first season of Avatar so many times, and I cannot tell you what the plot of this fucking Avatar movie is. Alright, so I'm gonna try and do my best to describe this plot. So, a little boy named Ong gets ripped out of the ice by Sokka and Katara. I will get back to that. He gets kidnapped by Fire Nation Prince Zuko and his good, trusty sidekick uncle, Iroh.
My name is Iroh.
Oh no!
Iroh.
And then they go to the air temple, and Aang finds the skulls of his dead ancestors. There's like a good chunk of the middle where I just had no clue what I was doing, and I gave up and went to go get some M&Ms from my counter. So yeah, they took this giant blueprint for the first movie, and they just made it a cobbled mess. I don't know how and why certain things were cut, but they were, and they make the changes worse. Every single thing in this movie that is original is terrible, terrible, terrible garbage. Now, everything that was, imported from the show into the movie is terrible, terrible garbage. Not terrible, terrible, terrible garbage. Terrible, terrible garbage. That was my explanation of the plot. Nothing, because I couldn't tell you the explanation of the plot. So, let me just get into the things I liked and didn't like. But, this is obviously a negative review because I did not like this movie. So I want to give my positive reviews first. What were the things that I liked in this movie? Wait, hang on. What the fuck were the things that I liked in this movie? I I like this one scene where Katara, like, pushes this Fire Nation guard, and she goes, "Leave him alone." That was one of the unintentionally funny scenes in the movie. I like Sokka's haircut. I think they got it as accurate to the show as they could have, without, you know, making it too cartoonish. Look, I'm really trying to give you props here. I will actually say that the costume design, it's never, like, fantastic or outstanding or even, like, good, but it's also not, like, offensive. I mean, like, the Fire Nation goons look like fucking MF Doom, and Zuko's scar just looked like somebody sat on his face for too long, but other than that, things could be worse. That's like the one thing in the entire movie that could actually be worse than what the final product ended up being. And this is kind of like a backhanded compliment, but I love Zuko as the Blue Spirit and his whole scene to just, like, rescue Aang. Not because I actually like this scene, but because Zuko as the Blue Spirit is really fucking funny. Yo, it's the very popular Fire Nation vehicle that they always...
Follow and eyeball of our enemies. I am sending a personal message to the Fire
It's Spider-Man. He gets hit by an arrow that he was looking directly at. He was looking right at it! Okay, no more fun. Now time for hell. Alright, now I'm just gonna get this one out the way, because this is the first criticism that anybody ever has of this fucking movie. And I think our live reaction just summarizes it the best. Wait.
Why is she white?
Well, yeah, that was what I was gonna say.
Whitewash Katara.
Now, I'm not one to cry about diversity and whatever. I don't really care what skin color the character is, as long as it doesn't change the overall story or if it doesn't make sense or whatever. But this is kind of... Why are all of the actors white? They couldn't get, like, a couple actual, you know, Asian people or Inuits, you know? Oh, and while I'm on the subject of the actors' skin color, I should actually probably emphasize the actors. Not a single actor here is doing a good job. I don't really like blaming shit on actors because, you know, it's usually the script's fault or, like, the director's fault for not giving them enough. And in this movie, I'm kind of willing to chalk it up to all, it's just the first take every time, because I absolutely refuse to believe that anybody could be this bad on anything that isn't the first take.
Would you mind if I put a few things in front of you at the table? It will only take a moment.
Are you the Avatar, Ong?
Bring me all your elderly!
You not still upset?
Not as much as I was. I ran away, but I'm back now.
Are you an airbender boy?
Leave him alone! Do you think it would be okay if I just visited there and came back? I'd be back in less than a day.
How old are you, McLovin?
Old enough.
Old enough for what?
To party?
You can clip like 100 different scenes from this movie. If you took away the special effects and, like, just filmed them on a green screen or whatever, this would, honestly, the acting would remind you of one of those shitty student, like, movies that you would make in school. The editing and the cinematography are garbage. And now, I'm one of those plebeians who doesn't really care too much about editing or cinematography in a movie, but this is terrible. Some scenes just end. Like, you notice it. Even a dumb fuck like me notices how shitty some of these scenes are edited and cut. Like, you don't just cut in the middle of a sentence. The pacing in this movie is also really, really egregious. Like, it's so fucking boring. It is the most boring movie I've ever seen. I mean that wholeheartedly. There is not a movie that I have ever wanted to turn off more so than Avatar: The Last Airbender when I was watching it. Our group reaction with Anthony Parmesan, I had to split it up into 3 different days because I couldn't finish it. Because he couldn't finish it all in one sitting. And, like, the last big thing I want to complain about are the special effects. Nothing looks good. Now, I'm forgiving of special effects in small budget movies. This movie had a fucking budget of $110 million. And it looks like this. Why is it in slow-mo? Zack Snyder's Avatar: The Last Airbender. Ew! You know, I know you've all already seen it, like the meme of the fucking earthbenders all doing this magic dance for one tiny little rock. And I have to show it. Because it's baffling. All of the earthbending looks so bad. Oh god. Who approved this? And this is kind of like a movie where the special effects need to look good, if you understand what I'm saying. You can't just like have some half-assed special effects and hope that everything else carries it. Like, honestly, I feel like a lot of the hate that this movie gets would be kind of like forgiven if it had like one or two engaging bending fight scenes. But everything is like so poorly choreographed and like all the effects look super bad. So it's just, it falls apart. So this movie has bad action, has a bad plot, has bad pacing, it has bad cinematography, it has bad editing. There is nothing in this movie that you can grasp onto as, oh, okay, that's kind of good, or oh, that's okay, or you know what, yeah, I like that. That's pretty decent. There's nothing. Everything in this movie sucks. Everything in this movie is bottom of the barrel garbage. But I haven't even gotten to the worst part of this movie. Let's talk about the characters.
The people next to me were covering their eyes during some of the scenes because it was that bad. It is actually painful to watch some of the scenes in this movie, and I've never experienced that before.
Alright, let's start off with Aang.
The monks named me Aang.
Shut up. Aang is just completely vapid. Aang has just been stripped of any and all fucking personality traits that he may have had. He's just a sad boy with airbending tattoos on his face. By the way, they zoom into that arrow more times than I can count in this entire movie. It's quite funny, but there's just nothing I can say about him because he's an empty, vapid character. He only expresses sadness. He talks to this fucking dragon, which literally makes no sense. And he has no chemistry with Katara whatsoever. Or Sokka, for that matter. None of those characters feel like they're in a genuine team. They all are just on a bison, flying across the fucking ocean, looking for a way to continue the plot organically. By the way, I was too stupid to mention this in the fucking special effects, but Appa looks fucking horrifying. Genuinely, he looks like a creature from the Black Lagoon. Despite the entire movie being fucking narrated by her, Katara is also completely vapid and fucking helpless. The only trait she has is that she wants to help Aang. Why? She doesn't feel right. She just doesn't feel right. I don't know what to say. Sokka has also been stripped of all personality as well. He's supposed to be the fucking comic relief, but he has never once made a joke. He is so serious that he ends up just being a really fucking boring character. He also has zero chemistry with Yue, so when she dies, you feel nothing. Other than, you know, some sense of hilarity because you need something to grip onto and it's kind of funny that she becomes a fish. Zuko and Iroh are probably the most egregiously changed. They have literally almost no screen time. They raid the Northern Water Tribe, they go get their feet massaged, Zuko kidnaps the Avatar at the fucking other Water Tribe, and then, that's it. Zuko's relationship with Iroh in this movie genuinely just does not exist. Iroh tells him, hey man, you should go fuck some bitches. And then Zuko just claps back and is like, I can't fuck bitches, I gotta find the Avatar. But, like, it's not like in the show where it's engaging because they're two polar opposites, but you can see how they affect each other. It's just two polar opposites that never affect each other, and they're just in their enclosed spaces, and they never change, and they never learn shit. One of my favorite moments in the Avatar fucking show is when Iroh gets kidnapped by those earthbending soldiers, and Zuko goes to rescue him, but then he sees Team Avatar above, and he has to make a choice, either save his uncle or capture the Avatar and get his honor back. But he chooses to save his uncle, and you see, you know, that little spark of, like, good in him, and that kind of, like, sets up his redemption arc. Nothing like that happens in this movie. They barely care for each other. You know that scene where Iroh delivers the fucking news to Zuko that he thinks of him as his own son? That doesn't happen. Iroh's just like, hey man, remember to, like, fucking breathe in the water so you stay warm. And then Zuko's like, okay bro, I will. And then he just goes and captures the Avatar and gets frozen in a fucking block of ice. Now you may be saying, well, XB, maybe they were dramatically reduced because the main antagonist of the first season is Zhao, right? Well, yeah, Zhao is technically the main antagonist of this movie as well, and he does get more screen time than Iroh and Zuko, but he's really, really fucking unintimidating. He is, like, the worst character in this movie, and he already wasn't even that good of a character in the show, but, like, his entire ideology is just him, you know, he brings Zuko onto his ship and invites him for lunch, and he just basically in front of a whole crowd goes, "Pussy! Pussy!" Fucking, like, you know, a few minutes later, he shows up in the fucking Northern Watering Tribe, and instead of, you know, getting attacked by the Avatar and, you know, being defeated by our main character, you know, the way it is in every fucking movie, because that's how you write a fucking movie, he just gets taken down by 4 random waterbenders we literally have not seen up to this point. And they have integrated Fire Lord Ozai more into this story than he was in the original first season. And, like, they completely just missed the point. You know how in the original Fire Lord Ozai's face was covered in, like, black because you weren't supposed to know who he was, and then in the third season they do the big reveal of he's just a normal guy who happened to do all these horrible things? They completely missed that point. They just... he's just here now. His face is in almost every scene. I want it to go away. I want it to go back in blackness because I've seen it too much. Oh, also, Azula is only in this movie for, like, a total of, like, a minute and a half, but I hate her. She didn't even have any lines. She didn't even look that bad. It's just, it's so fucking shitty. I hate it. So what would you have to do to fix this movie, huh? Well, first, you don't make it in the first place. Okay, but in all seriousness, as much as I hate it, I think you would have to make this movie as long as you possibly could. If you wanted to make the entire first season of Avatar into a full 3-hour movie, that was what you would have to do. You would have to cram all of the important shit. Because there is filler in that first season. There is a chunk of filler in that first season. I think you can cut out at least 3 or 4 episodes in that first season, and that's a lot. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot. Maybe replace it with original things that kind of get the point across the exact same way. I actually have a theory that this movie was 2.5 hours long at release, but M. Night Shyamalan watched it back and realized that he couldn't subject the general audience to this much of this
The monks named me Ang.
for 2.5 hours. Second, you don't use the first take. Do not use the first take. Take more than one take. So what does this movie get for a number score? There are little, like, funny moments. There's some points where it's entertaining. But I gotta be honest. If I didn't have my friends with me when I was watching this movie for the first time, I would have given up 30 minutes in. I would have been like, alright, it's time to find a new topic for a video. Because I had to watch this movie twice. I had to watch this movie twice so I could do this. And I couldn't even do that. I left 40 minutes in when I had to watch it myself so I could get footage. It was terrible. It was evil. It was garbage. It was just so bad. It was so bad. I genuinely cannot think of a single thing that is actually good about this movie. I have some respect for the costume design. I think in a vessel, some of the ideas are good. But all of that is either drowned out by A, this movie's utter and complete dog shit, B, everything else in the movie, C, the things I just listed are actually not that great to begin with, or D, the fact that this is all done much better in a little show called Avatar: The Last Airbender. All of these things are just completely overshadowing anything that may have had some sort of like grip on me, because there is nothing that I had a grip on through this entire movie. I cannot name you a single thing that had me from 0 to 1 hour 40. Not a damn thing. So when it comes to the scores, I'm giving it a 0 because it genuinely has nothing going for it. But that's all I had left in me. I don't know how many more of these big movie reviews I'm gonna do, because this one did kind of take a little bit, but I'm sure it'll be fun to make. Goodbye, and as always, thank you for not being as bad as Avatar: The Last Airbender by M. Night Shyamalan.
While all the boys can always save the day, no one does it better than the birds of prey. While all the boys can always save the day, no one does it better. No one does it better than the birds of prey.